Hello, everyone. My name is Henry Resnick, and this is my research proposal for my study that examines whether progressively higher protein intakes prescribed relative to lean body mass actually produce additional gains in lean body mass and strength in resistance trained adults. The study is designed as a 12-week randomized controlled trial with 3 protein dose groups. Resistance training reliably improves strength and lean mass, but nutrition plays a major role in how large those adaptations become. Protein is central because it supports muscle protein synthesis and whole body protein balance. While it's well accepted that lifters need more protein than the RDA, it's still unclear whether pushing intake from already high levels to very high or extreme ranges actually adds benefit. Another issue is that many studies prescribe protein based on body weight rather than lean body mass, which may obscure true dose-response relationships across individuals with different body compositions. The literature clearly shows benefits when protein intake increases from low to adequate levels. Meta-analytic work also suggests diminishing returns as intake rises, with an estimated plateau around 1.6 grams per kilogram per day when dosing by body weight. The problem is very few controlled trials actually test multiple graded doses in the high to extreme range, and most still rely on body weight dosing. This makes it difficult to answer a practical question for trained lifters. If someone already eats a high protein diet, does eating even more meaningfully improve lean mass or strength when trained and calories are controlled? This study directly tests that dose-response question using lean body mass-based dosing. Resistance-trained participants will be assigned to one of 3 protein targets: 1.5, 2.0, and 2.5 grams per pound of lean body mass. The primary outcomes are changes in lean mass and maximal strength over 12 weeks. Based on existing evidence showing diminishing returns at moderate to high intakes, the working hypothesis is that gains will plateau, meaning very high and extreme intakes will not produce proportionally greater improvements compared with a high intake. Several large reviews help frame this question. A key paper is the 2018 Systemic Review and Meta-Analyses by Morton and colleagues in the British Journal of Sports Medicine, which pulled data from 49 randomized controlled trials. They found that increasing protein intake led to modest but significant increases in fat-free mass and strength, but their meta-regression suggested a plateau around 1.6 grams per kilogram per day when protein was prescribed by body weight. Importantly, the authors noted that very few studies tested intakes above this range. More recently, Nunez and colleagues published a 2022 systemic review in Nutrients, reinforcing that higher protein intakes support greater lean mass gains, particularly in resistance-trained individuals. However, they emphasize that most studies cluster around moderate to high intakes, leaving uncertainty about the benefits of progressively higher doses. When we look specifically at studies that push protein intake much higher, the literature becomes far smaller. Antonio and colleagues conducted a 2014 randomized controlled trial in resistance-trained men and women published in JISSN, comparing habitual intake of about 1.8 grams per kilogram per day to a very high intake of 4.4 grams per kilogram per day. After 8 weeks, both groups improved body composition, but there were no differences in lean mass gains between groups. In a follow-up 2015 study, again in the same journal, Antonio's group compared approximately 2.3 versus 3.4 grams per kilogram per day and found similar results. Both groups gained lean mass and strength with no meaningful differences between intakes. Physique athlete data show a similar pattern. In 2018, Campbell and colleagues studied aspiring female physique athletes and found that higher protein intake clearly outperformed a low protein diet, but the study did not test whether intakes beyond already high levels provided additional benefit. Mechanistic work by Bandigan and colleagues in 2017 estimated protein requirements to male bodybuilders around 1.7 grams per kilogram per day, with an upper confidence limit near 2.2 grams per kilograms per day on a non-training day. However, this study did not assess hypertrophy or performance outcomes. Collectively, these studies show that moving from low to high protein improves outcomes, but they leave a clear gap. No controlled trials have tested multiple graded high to extreme protein doses using lean body mass based prescriptions under standardized training conditions. To address this gap, the proposed study uses a 12-week randomized controlled design with 3 parallel groups. Participants are healthy adults age 18 to 45 who have consistently resistance trained for at least 1 year. Participants will be randomized with stratification by baseline lean mass to consume 1.5, 2.0, or 2.5 grams of protein per pound of lean body mass. Diets will be isocaloric, meals will be provided to maximize adherence, and all participants will follow the same standardized resistance training program. The primary outcome is change in lean body mass, measured by DEXA from baseline to week 12. Secondary outcomes include changes in maximal strength assessed via 1 repetition maximum testing for the squat and bench press. Adherence will be monitored through meal checklists and weekly compliance reviews. Outcome assessors will be blinded to group assignment, and safety procedures include screening out renal disease and monitoring gastrointestinal tolerance. Descriptive statistics will be used to summarize the sample and confirm baseline comparability. The primary analysis will use repeated measures, ANOVA, to test group by time effects for changes in lean mass and strength, with ANCOVA used if baseline differences remain. Interpretation will emphasize effect sizes and confidence intervals, not just statistical significance, and an a priori power analysis will guide sample size estimation. This study has several strengths, including a multi-arm dose-response design, lean body mass-based protein dosing, controlled feeding, and standardized training. Limitations include feasibility at the extreme intake level and generalizability limited to healthy, resistance-trained adults. While a 12-week intervention is practical and common in training studies, longer trials may be needed to detect smaller differences. Future research could build on these findings by examining longer interventions or testing different protein patterns or sources once dose-response relationships are clearly established. These final slides list the key references supporting the study rationale, including meta-analyses, very high protein intervention trials, mechanistic requirement studies, and long-term safety data. Thank you for listening and watching my presentation with me. I hope this has gotten you excited about protein intake and the possibility of lean muscle gains and performance by adjusting those numbers. Thank you.